All right. This feels a little bit high, actually. Let's see if we can find a better spot. This is seriously just on a tree. As in the phone's just being set, like, on the bark of the tree. There we go. Okay. My name is Evan Strong. I make content geared mostly around shoelacing and tying and our clothing, and the discrepancies within the lacing of our shoes and the tying of our shoes, our clothing left to right, front to back, tags within those things, seams within those things, unevennesses in sizes and weights that pull on our bodies or push our bodies out of their natural center line and alignment and their natural working, functioning position. So I show little tweaks within clothing that we can do to allow our bodies to just be natural and have their natural movements. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the wrist, a neutral wrist. In 2024, we have a lot of stuff we didn't have in the past, and neutral wrists are essential. Your wrist travels, as I always say, anything within your body that's out of balance at all, something else, but many things throughout the body have to compensate. So to have a neutral wrist, that will actually help your shoulder health. It'll help your back and your hip health. It'll keep your feet on their natural arch, and the rest of your body will be happy. Your neck tension will be relieved, right? A lot of things come from the wrist. So prerequisites to anything that I ever show, anything that I ever share freely within my content up until this point, take all the tags out of everything that you wear, anything you place on your body, stemming at the shoelaces all the way up through all of your clothing. Lace and tie your shoes. I can't even get my foot really high enough to show you, but lace and tie your shoes with my lacing technique and tying technique. Make sure you tie them over toward the inside to allow for even internal rotation. I've got that in so many places wherever my content is placed. These shorts are kind of tight, and also, I mean, that's pretty high. I just can't really show, or I just show how it's laced. But prerequisites there, okay? Tags, shoelaces, yes. So when it comes to the wrist, I've talked about the wrist before, and I've talked about like the shaka, right? Like surfers, you see going like this, like Hawaii kind of thing, you know? And I've said the reason why they do that, at least the reason they're allowed to do that, because a lot of people can't even get into this position, is because a lot of times surfers don't wear shoes with laces pushing their arches down, right? Or pulling their feet out of their center line. And they also a lot of times don't wear shirts. You know, men, they go surfing, they usually are shirtless or in a wetsuit that's allowing their body to move. So I've mentioned that surfers actually just have the motion in their wrists to get up here. And a lot of people nowadays are here, okay? And you can't get your pinkies up, and you can't get your shoulders back, okay? So, right, traditional, like, meals, if you think about in the past, it's still modern day, but I've just seen it a lot in movies. They say, keep your pinkies up, you know, it's proper, like, etiquette. Well, you put your pinkies up, and it puts your body in an internally rotated, open position, the position I'm always showing within my content. So, like, if I'm pointing, look where my finger is. It's my pinky that's pointing, not my pointer finger. Watch my shoulder, okay? If you think about a fighter or a martial artist, when they go to punch, I'm gonna come just like straight towards the lens. Look at that, the pinky is straight down the arm, okay? The pointer finger is not. This will come up, and then the arm is over here. The arm comes down, and the pinky is directly in line. If you were to lay your arm on a flat, I mean, this is pretty much flat. Your pinky allows there to be no gap here, but your pointer finger now tweaks your wrist like this, which your shoulder has to follow. Look at my shoulder here versus here. Here it's just in a relaxed open position with the pinky out. With the pointer finger, it's not in the position that it would naturally just work in, right? That's all that I show, is just how to allow our bodies to work in their natural functioning position. So a neutral wrist is straight out from the pinky, okay? Now, the body's all connected, but to the extent in which that is shocking once you learn it. Because I've mentioned before, the waistband of our pants, anything that you wear, should at least be even height in the front as it is in the back, if not slightly higher in the front than the back. Because in order to get into internal rotation of the femurs, of the, you have to tuck the pelvis posteriorly, right? As if your pelvis is going like this, right? The front has to be up. So that's just a natural working position for the body. But, well, if you have anything in your front pockets, okay, your pelvis is going to be anterior. If you have a belt buckle, your pelvis is probably going to be anterior. If you have most modern designed pants, there's a belt loop on the rear that will cause your back to sway a little bit and be anterior, especially if there's an actual belt pulling from there. It definitely will. So that's why I stress clothing so much, because a neutral wrist, a prerequisite to even be able to have that is posterior tuck and internal rotation on the arches of your natural arch in your foot. Then you're here in a neutral wrist position, very relaxed but very activated. Okay, so watch my pelvis and watch my wrists. Okay, I anteriorly rotated my pelvis as if I had a belt loop pulling up or things in my pockets pulling down, and now my wrists drop here, which is very similar to this, right? So you need to tuck the pelvis, then your wrists are allowed to follow. I mean, it's the same kind of look, right? The pelvis is coming up and the wrists are coming up. Now you're in a neutral position and you're open, right? Because when I show internal rotation, as I did with like the fighter type position, I've done this a lot. I say to follow the thumbs and come internal, right? This is external rotation, this is internal. So look at that reach in internal rotation. And again, the pinkies are what lead, okay? We have a lot more reach than most of us could even imagine, all right? So a neutral wrist requires those prerequisites that I always show, and that's why they're prerequisites. That's why in most every video that I make, that's why that's in the intro. Lacing and tying the shoes correct and removing the tags from everything. It's also very important for your shirt to fit. Your shoulder seams should be very close to where your shoulders are. Ideally, they really should be on top, right where that little bone is, right on the corner of the top of your shoulder. The actual like end of your shoulder seams. But then also the shoulder seams on top, I've mentioned this, they have to sit behind your shoulders, just very slightly behind that little bone right there, because then they're just out of the way to allow your body to just have its natural motion. And you have a lot of range in your natural functioning position within your own body's capability. So in order to have a neutral wrist, as I showed with the pelvis, there's other things within your body that have to be in their natural position, the position they'd be in without being altered by the clothing we place on them. So as I say, up until this point within my content, it's the 31st of August, 2024. I've never shown a single exercise, a single routine, a single stretch, never, nothing like that. Because if you're exercising and digging into the muscles in your forearms, trying to loosen it up, or doing anything to try to get your wrists relaxed and neutral, yet there's a tag in the back of your shirt, look at my wrist versus here, right? Or your shirts don't fit you, and now my shoulders are dropped, right? This is why I always talk about clothing. That's the whole root of my content. The whole root of anything that I do within this is the clothing, because it's the fix. It really is the universal fix for the entire body. So, a neutral wrist. Because if you want good posture, I've mentioned how I don't use the word posture. I don't like the word posture. But for the image, when we think of what posture means, people stand and they say, yeah, stand. This is, what they say. It's something similar to how I stand, because my body's in a natural, functioning, working position. In order to get there, you have to have a neutral wrist, or else, you just can't. I've mentioned with other parts of the body that your muscles have to stem from somewhere. So your wrist is not actually your wrist, it's your shoulder, right? See that? If this shoulder comes back, this wrist will just automatically want to come up. But if it can't, because there's other things, then if you're trying to work on your shoulders, but you're right? I don't want to get too specific saying this will only affect this and this, because the point is the entire body's connected. So if you have a problem within your wrist, or you have stiffness within your hands, check your shoulder seams where they sit, right? Here and back here, and tags out. Just don't want to be redundant of what I've already said at the beginning, but those prerequisites have to be done, and your body will just do its thing. So I think the important thing, kind of one of the most important takeaways from this, is the pinky. So when you see people and they're pointing around and they're kind of like this, internal a little bit, that's because they have natural shoulder health, right? If your shoulders are not in the right position, meaning just its natural position, then you're going to be trying to point, and your pointer finger is going to be the only thing that can get there to point. And that's just because there's binding up happening all throughout in here. These rotator cuff muscles that work your scapulas, they come up underneath, all in here, okay? And this outer pec right here, especially if you're in this position a lot of the time, they'll get very bound up, and they need to just be able to have their natural range of motion. And there's your pinkies, right? Pointer fingers, pinkies. So, one big thing, and I've mentioned this before, our hands have a natural openness, a natural slight radius, if you will, a rounding to the fingers. And when we're always holding something flat, right, that's not how our hands work. We're forcing them to work in a position they're not designed to. Our hands are handcrafted to work in a way, and only that way. So there needs to be a radius within them. So I'll go into that more. Yes, we'll make a specific thing on that. But yes, so the pinkies are where you lead from, right? Because if you're trying to, I'm not a fighter, never been trained in fighting, and I'm not condoning fighting, but for the sake of reach, it's a very natural motion to reach like this in a punch, right? It's your pinky that really can open up this whole side of the rib cage of the arm that's leading, if the pinky is the finger that is leading straight down the arm. So yes, that is a neutral wrist. And that's where we're trying to get within all of my content, within anything that I show within the human body. We're just trying to get back to, as I always say, natural, which is kind of a synonym for neutral. I mean, just a neutral position within everything. And, you know, yeah. So, yes, neutral wrist, and it'll affect your breathing. I'm gonna say it on the good end. It'll help your breathing once you get your wrist into a natural neutral position. Because now your rib cage is so open. If your wrists are, as a lot of people's are in modern 2024, about here, you can't breathe very well, because that's not how you're naturally designed to work. You're naturally designed to work up here. So your breathing will improve from your wrists. So yes. All right. My name is Evan Strong. I make content like this, and I don't really have any kind of schedule, any kind of promises on when or what to come, but I post things as and when necessary. I'm going to be designing clothing, again, when it happens, just to allow our bodies to do what they would naturally do and have their natural functions. There's a lot of amazing clothing out there, but I'm a very minimal person in all the things throughout my entire life, and the only reason I feel that I need to design clothing is just to allow our bodies to function well. Most clothing has quite a bit of limitations naturally from the factory, and I've shown within a lot of the content that I've already posted freely, you can go back and find little modifications we can do that I've personally done to the items of clothing that I'm wearing to allow them to let our bodies work pretty well. But it'd be ideal if we could just purchase something and put it on and we're good to go, and our bodies just have no restriction and we can just move and reach and stuff. So yes, that's to come when it does. Okay, a neutral wrist. Once you're in a neutral position in any part of your body, it will just have motion. It will just have its natural flexibility, mobility, and it'll have its full range starting from the center. Now you can go here and you can go here. Okay? Neutral position of the wrist. Just look at my upper body, like the position it's in when my wrists are straight, neutral. Right? It's just open. All right. Check out my other content. Stick around for more to come when it does. And yeah, it's all so much simpler than you might think. Again, I at least up until this point today have given 0 exercises. That's not what it's about. It's just about letting your body do what your body would do until it gets restricted by external things. Okay, thank you.